Hey guys, welcome back to So Love. It is a Thursday. I am, of course, in the garden before I have to run and do family kid things. So I have an opportunity to get some things planted. I started planting some of the tomatoes off camera. So I'd like to really wrap that up today, try to get some peppers in the ground. So we'll see how far I'm able to get. I wanted to give you a little bit of an update of what's going on in the garden before we get started. But if you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Let's go ahead and get into a mini tour. All right, so we'll start with the blueberry bush. Really, there's bushes, but there's basically two that are heavily fruited. So we have this one here, which this week I am planning on coming out to cover these with some bird netting. I do that every year just to make sure we get the harvest and not necessarily the bees, or not the bees, the birds. I did discover a serviceberry bush out here, which is pretty cool to see. So it's not in the most ideal spot, honestly. It's right here nestled in between my blueberry bushes. Serviceberry is a native bush, native to the US. So I definitely want to keep it, but not necessarily right there. I've heard the berries taste a lot like a blueberry, but I think a little bit more tart maybe. So I got to figure out if I can get in there safely without disturbing my blueberry bushes and pull that out. Walking into the garden here are some of the tomatoes that I started from seed that I was able to get planted. They're really small. I did bury them really deep, so they are maybe about 8 inches tall technically. So I pricked off the lower leaves and buried those as deep as I could go. And I did fertilize them with fish emulsion. I planted burdock root here. It did not come up. So I really need to look up and see if that needs to be a cold stratified, just to make sure I planted it correctly, because I did not do any research. I just kind of popped the seeds into the ground. So I'll try that again. Well, I'll do a little bit of research and adjust accordingly. If it doesn't need to be cold stratified, I might start some more in some pots, but I planted seeds like right along the middle of the bed. I'll show you another area that I have those growing. Here I have some more tomato plants. I have quite a few bamboo sticks that I'm going to use to do some stakes and start some trellis, because I do normally grow tomatoes vertically. I have more tomatoes planted here, and I see one that looks like it's struggling, which for now I put a bunch of the extra plants into those pots, and then I still have more to go. So I have plenty of extras, more tomato plants here. So I told y'all in another video that I really want to be blessed with a lot of tomatoes this year, just because, I don't know, I think, in my opinion, those are like one of the most tasty things that come from the garden. So I'm looking to plant as many tomatoes as I can. I started these seeds in another video. For the most part, all of the areas are coming up. Looks like, except for the bottom, that was basil, which looks like maybe it just hasn't come up yet. We got some rain yesterday. We're supposed to get some more just kind of randomly throughout the weeks. As you can see, I am waiting for a few things to go to seed, but this will be another bed that I might try the peppers in that bed this year. The clematis, which is like one of my favorite views from the garden right now. It's just in full bloom. It just looks really good. So I'm really proud of what the clematis is doing. this year. A lot of my tomato plants that I started earlier do have blooms on them. And if you're new to growing tomatoes, they do have the male and the female parts on the flowers. You just have to kind of come out and shake them to make sure that you get germination. Here is that pot that has a lot of random melon. I'm not sure. At first I thought it was a cucumber, but now they kind of look like cantaloupe leaves. It could be a cucumber, but they look like some type of melon leaf. Some of them have started to fruit, or excuse me, some of them have started to flower. I'm not seeing any fruit on the flowers yet, so still not quite sure if it is a cantaloupe or a cucumber. And I had said I was going to thin this out, but honestly I never got around to it. So I may just end up leaving them all in this bed, honestly, and just pray for the best. I do have some ground cherries that are randomly seeded in that bed as well, which I'll probably pull out because those can get really, really big. I pulled the tomato plants or tomatoes earlier, and I'm starting to get a lot of runners coming off my tomato vines. I did mention before that I want to really plant a lot of tomatoes out in a specific area. So I'm planning on doing that. I'd like to keep them all in one area just so I can more easily harvest them. I'll leave these where they are, but I do want to root quite a few so that I can move them into a specific area. Here is just a random bed of mixed things. Looks like there's some melons / cucumbers coming up, snapdragons, leftover brassicas, and some rogue potatoes in there. What I might do is plant my sweet potato slips here. Not quite sure yet, but I do need to thin this bed out heavily. More things that I'm trying to collect seeds from. This was the plant that I accidentally pulled up on the last video when I was planning out pulling up a bunch of the brassicas of the harvest video. No, it wasn't the harvest video. It was the bed where I was prepping the beds for tomatoes. So it's still okay. Probably what I need to do is just cut off that top branch right there to allow it to spring some new growth. So I'll probably end up doing that. But tomatoes you'll find are pretty resilient. These are, I believe, Lacinato, kale, and Nero Toscana. Nero de Toscana, I think that's how you say it, kale, or cabbage that I'm trying to collect seed from, which looks like the pods are almost there. Oops. The pods are almost there. I'm waiting for these to turn brown. And you want to get in there before they open up, and you get tomatoes or seeds that will spread everywhere from the dried up pods. So that's what I'm waiting for there. The toothache plant has finally started coming up. This is that not moonflower. I was mistakenly calling it moonflower. What is it called? It's a vine that honestly can be pretty invasive. However, this one is like a double pink bloom. So honestly, I'm okay if that blooms in several different places based on the seed scattering. Here I have a mixture of beans and tomatoes and sunflowers. I'm excited about the sunflowers coming up so vigorously. I probably should have thought twice about where or I guess how big they would get based on where they are in placement of the tomatoes. However, I think the tomatoes will be fine. They are covered in blooms in different places. I do need to come in and do some leaf pruning pretty heavily. So that's, of course, one more thing for me to do out here. The mullein plant looks like it might be about to go to seed here. I really need to come out and harvest some of these leaves. Yeah, it looks like it's about to maybe go to seed. Mullein leaves are really, really soft. This is like one of my daughter's favorite things to come out in here and touch. Reminds me of lamb's ear. But it's really, really good for the respiratory system. So if you have like asthma or bronchitis or just a really bad cold with a lot of congestion, making this into like a tea is really good. I've heard that you can kind of grind the leaves and use them in different food. I have not tried it that way, but it does get really, really big. As you can see, this is going on its second year out here in the garden. Over here are the watermelons that we planted or started from seed, along with the zucchini that I've not had the chance to cover yet. I wanted to experiment with that, covering them to protect them from the squash vine borer, with some type of netting. Well, probably with the netting that I use for the winter. So hopefully I can do that this week as well. A rogue tomato plant. I'm kind of curious to know what kind of tomato this is. I guess it came from the compost. More random tomatoes coming up here. These are tomatoes that, actually these are the ones I started from seed, and planted earlier on in the season. So you can see the difference in size, based on how earlier they were planted. These are things I'm hoping to plant before the weekend: eggplant and more peppers. And then this is another example of what I was telling you earlier, the strawberry plants. A lot of runners coming off of those now. They say that you can prolong your strawberry harvest if you go in and pinch off the runners. I think the first couple of seasons I tried that, and it's just really hard to keep up with unless you're coming out like every single day, and intentionally cutting off the runners, because I visit my garden every day, but cutting off the runners is not necessarily the first thing on my mind. So you can be more intentional about clipping the runners to try to prolong your harvest. These are carrots, and some of them are starting to go to seed, which, remember I told you they let off a really, really pretty white flower that looks a lot like Queen Anne's lace. So I like letting some of these go to seed. I have been harvesting some of the carrots, however, using them in cooking. So what I might do is harvest a few more, or quite a few more, to preserve in our refrigerator, and then allow some more to go to seed, because that'll also clear up some space for me to do some other things. More things I'm waiting to flower or finish flowering and go to seed. I'm trying to be patient because there's quite a few things I really, really want to plant. These are all of our potatoes that we started, I believe, in February. I've been kind of curious as to how our growth is doing down there. So I might wait a couple more weeks and just do a little more scratching down there just to kind of see what's growing. Thanks so much for tuning in to a brief update on what's going on in the garden. Please leave any questions or comments down below. And as always, thank you so much for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Bye, you guys.